But I would like to start things off with, why William Lyon Mackenzie King? What attracted you to this historical figure, this political figure, this individual?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, there's little stories about him as an older person, sort of involved with dog worship and seances and stuff like that. And he was a lifelong bachelor, and that was interesting to me. But I think as an undergraduate, when I was in university, I read his diary. Just the idea of reading someone else's diary was sort of lurid and thrilling to me. And Mackenzie King was a lifelong diarist, and so am I. I've kept a diary my whole life compulsively. And when I was reading his diary as a young man, I found I was really drawn to kind of his worst expression of self, and sort of in his maudlin outbursts and romantic confusion and sort of Napoleonic vanity. I felt like I was just reading my own diary. So I really just, that was sort of the embryo of the whole thing.
And Dan,
Yes.
when hearing all of that, where did you find the character in terms of how you plan to play this character?
In the mirror. Where did I find the character? I think that there are certain wavelengths in which Matthew and I are quite similar, and so I think it was like just the presentation of the idea and its both its bigness and its smallness that just resonated with me entirely. It felt like a totally natural fit.
And so William Lyon Mackenzie King is a true historical figure. So is Tart. But some of the characters for the sake of my own historical ignorance, who on stage played a historical character and who was an invention of your own?
Oh, well, they're all pretty much real. Yeah. Mother was real. Arthur Meehan was even Prime Minister of Canada for a short period. Bert Harper was Mackenzie King's friend, and he did die in the Ottawa River trying to save the life of someone who was drowning.
But Narwhal was not involved.
Maybe.
Okay.
And then, yes, of course, J. Israel Tart. Yeah, and of course, Serienne plays sort of a composite character, Nurse Lapointe, who is a combo of a nurse that Mackenzie King did have a very brief and confused relationship with, and of course, his Quebec lieutenant, Ernest Lapointe, who was, his sort of Quebec, long-suffering Quebec ally in his Liberal government. And of course, Lord Muto is based on Lord Minto, who was Governor General for a while. And no, they're all kind of based in like real people.
Even Mr. Wakefield?
Yes. Well, he's sort of based on the author of Kellogg's Cornflakes. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but cornflakes were in fact an anti-masturbation pathology of the early 20th century. They were invented as a bland foodstuff that you would eat so you wouldn't masturbate, and so
it works. It works.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was inspired by Kellogg's Cornflakes for that character. But I met Key at Sundance years ago, and I was just so fascinated by him just as a person, and I wrote this role really just for Key. So he was the only one who's kind of trans-historical, yeah.
I need to hear from the cast about what it is like to work on a Matthew Rankin set, because there's something already just looking at the sets, with when everything is rendered and finished. They're so spectacular, they're so amazing. But what it is like to work on Matthew's set? I'd love to hear from everyone. Let's go down, starting with Dan, and then I'll pass the mic.
Oh, okay, yeah. Constantly imaginative. There would be persistent problems with like the inability to achieve such a wild vision, and then it was like, and then there were solutions to those. It was like the day on set was inventing solutions to those problems, magnificent new solutions to those problems. That was kind of my experience, in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's like willfully relaunching the Hindenburg. Right. Really, how I felt about it. What did you think, Louis?
When I was very young,
I was born in England, but I grew up in Toronto. And it just seems so unbelievably boring. I mean, all I heard about is hockey. And Saturday night, we'd listen to the Saturday night hockey game and play strip poker with a bunch of guys. And I was always the first one who got undressed. So that's kind of what I knew about politics in Canada. So this has been a revolution for me. I mean, I'm staggered by it all. And it's exciting because now I'm proud of my country.
Does anyone have any sort of general thoughts of the chaos of a Rankin set?
You know, he really does lead an army of tenderness. And in the movie, disappointment wins, but on a Rankin set, it's all tenderness and love.
And finally, too,
I'd like to throw it to the audience now. Yes, right there.
So, what is your comedic influence and visual stylistic influence?
Would you have a key? I mean, there's a lot on screen, but was there a key comic or stylistic influence that I guess kept manifesting on this production?
Yes. Well, comic. I don't know. I guess Monty Python is a big kind of influence. I don't know. I would say Guy Maddin is obviously a huge influence. Guy is one of my masters. But I would say more than anything else, the Fellini's Casanova was maybe the biggest, most direct influence on this movie. And I made little references to it throughout, visually and otherwise, because I do sort of think of Mackenzie King as like the Casanova of masturbation.
Other questions? Yes, right over there.
For a film as strange and wonderful as this is, how did you and your creative team decide on the production and art direction of the film?
So there's where I really take a cue from Guy Maddin, because it's all about trying to make an aesthetic virtue out of a Dollarama budget, right? And so a lot of the ways that you sort of deal with that is you shoot you build one room and it's like two actors and they have an intimate kind of sort of situation going on, and then your money can go far. But with this, we were really building it entirely out of what we could find in Dollarama. So. And it was all about kind of embracing artifice and really getting into mischief with the artifices of cinema. And that would allow us to, if we sort of embrace things being really fake, then we could, get operatic with them,
How big was the space that you shot the film in?
Yeah, it was small, I guess. I don't know. It was kind of.
Did you have to rebuild? Like, did you have to tear down a set and build the new one in its place, or were you able to have multiple standing sets?
Well, there were maybe a couple, but yeah, we recycled everything within an inch of its life. I think the set had to be rebuilt practically every time we moved the camera. We had so few elements. Yeah.
Right there. If you were to remake any Canadian heritage moment, which moment would that be?
Dr. Penfield.
He's got it ready in the holster.
There should be more brain in that one. I wanted to see the brain.
Over there. What was the deal? What do you mean the deal with the mustaches? Humans wear them. Yeah. Or grow them.
I am from Winnipeg, and Burton Cummings is one of the great mustaches of our time. So I was trying to have Burton hovering over this thing as much as possible.
That's a good answer. Other questions? Yes, right there. Sean, how did you come to be involved in this production?
They asked me to do it. Pretty much, I'll go wherever I'm asked. But I just kind of read some of the script, and it was I was asked by the beautiful Mr. Rankin to look at it, and I said, "This looks just so weird." But yes, okay, whatever you want. whatever you want. And that's the feeling you get when you go into the out of the set. I had no idea really of the entire thing. I only knew what I was doing, kind of, and it was so strange. And I had a fake mustache, which was excellent. And I just got to yell and be weird. And I tell you, that is incredibly liberating. And but I really just wanted to make sure that Matthew's vision was there. And when you got into the set, and it was all so strange looking, and I just wanted it to be exactly what he asked for. So I hope it was. That's all. I hope it was. I know how disappointed you were at the time. But anyway, I don't know if that answered anyone's question, but I don't care.
We have time for just a few more if there are any questions left in the audience. And right at the back. How did you achieve the effect of the floating Canada Goose?
Oh yeah, well, you know.
That doesn't come. You don't get
It
that
actually
at Dollarama.
floated. It was amazing.
That's right. It was hand carved by Corentin Le Dosseur, who was our great friend and spiritual warrior, who is sadly no longer with us. He built that goose with his bare hands, and it was the most beautiful thing. It was this object that we would take turns sitting in the goose sometimes between takes, and it was just a real beautiful thing. It became kind of like our little monument, our little icon.